Welcome into an April 9th edition of Daily Faceoff Live. We are streaming live on the DFO YouTube, and as always, a presentation of Bet365. Hockey fans, check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout when the team you're riding with goes up 3. You get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Live on the DFO YouTube, like I said, looking for your inbox questions. As always, it can be for us. It can be for Dave Pagnotta, our insider, who is our guest for today, coming up in about 15 minutes' time. But Huts, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I finally got the map up there, so you guys can say what you want. I'm a team player, a glue guy. I did what I needed to do, and I think worst case, we just call myself Carmen Sandiego, baby. You don't know where I am, but I got the map, and we're ready to rock.
I like that. The map, you're pandering to the YouTube chat, getting on their good side. It's good stuff. All right, lots to get to from last night. Even though there wasn't a ton of hockey, we have more off-ice news in the NHL. It's honestly kind of insane how much of this we've been getting over the last couple of weeks. But this time it's from Seattle, where Ron Francis is stepping down as the president of the Seattle Kraken. He spent 7 years with the club. Of course, they haven't been around for 7 seasons, but he was a part of that group that took them through the expansion draft process and all of that stuff. First off, I think this obviously kind of goes without saying. When you see someone step down, you hope it's not health related. You hope it's the best for him and his family, and this is kind of his decision. So you kind of park that at the beginning of the conversation. The flip side of it, if we're going to talk about the hockey side of this decision, I suppose, one playoff appearance since they've become a franchise. Obviously, that year where they went and beat the Colorado Avalanche, it was electric in the moment, maybe a bit of a curse in disguise. And when you look back at it, because I think the way we're going to remember these first few years of the Seattle Kraken franchise is it was an organization and a franchise that kind of lacked an identity on the ice, as good as things maybe went off the ice, Huts.
Yeah, it feels like it's a respect factor here where he's stepping down. Like, I think the writing was on the wall. And again, I just think it's like another domino to fall, right? We touched on this the other day with Jeff Merrick, where it feels like everybody has their finger on the trigger and one person shoots their shot, then everyone feels like they have to catch up and make a move. So then they can be first to the table to get guys, general managers that are available. We see the race, and all of a sudden there's only so many names, and we know we like to reuse players. But for Ron Francis and the Seattle Kraken, I think, the bar was set very high with the Vegas Golden Knights when they came in, and the expansion draft and the changes that were made. And he was not really able to get superstars. And just like, how everybody was giving them first round picks to not take players, he didn't really get that luxury. And I think it hurt him. And then again, the process of playoffs once in 5 years and a losing record over those years, he's been 174 and 187, 11 overtime. Like, it's just not good enough, right? Like, you need to win. And then I think expectations get raised when you make the playoffs and you beat a team like Colorado. I think it sped up expectations and hope in Seattle, where I just don't really think they were there. And then a few of their signings, they go out and they force the Brandon Montour deal, where he came out of Florida with a cup. The Chandler Stevenson contract, I just don't think those were big contracts at the time that were going to help you over the top. You just became more of that murky middle team. And I think that's been a big issue with this squad.
Yeah, it kind of felt like they were chasing mediocrity there for a little bit. Like, you go and again, you got to use your cap on something. So, like, when it comes to that, it's like, okay, you want to blow it in free agency, but you do it on guys like Montour and Stevenson. And it's like, okay, so what are you doing here? Are you just trying to be the best 8 seed you can possibly be? And for Seattle, where I wonder if maybe this can be, this Francis decision, if we're going to call it a decision, who knows how things went down behind the scenes, but where this can be a bit of a blessing for them. Get a new president in there who has time on their side. Give someone a nice 5-year contract. Say, don't worry, you're secure. We're not going to gas you because you don't make the playoffs for back-to-back seasons or anything like that. Get some lottery picks. Like, I remember, this was a number of years ago, but I went to Seattle and I was just sitting in the stands watching a Kraken game. They were playing the Hurricanes. And, you get to chatting with the guy next to you. He's like, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from Edmonton. He goes, oh, man, I would love to have a team one day that's like you guys with all that star power. He was like, I don't know much about hockey. He's like, how do you do that? And I laughed. I was like, man, Oilers fans went 10 years without seeing a playoff game. Like, that's how you get that. You need to be bad for a little bit. You can't just be a little bad. You got to be a lot bad. And some of it's lottery luck, right? You're going to win some years. You're going to fall down some years. Some of it's the luck of how good your draft class is. Like, they got Matty Beniers. It's just a shame that Matty Beniers is a really good top 6 player, a top line center. He's just not a franchise changing superstar, right? So you need to be bad not just for 1 year, you kind of need to be bad for 2 or 3 years to get it all lined up. And to bring this kind of point I'm making full circle, when you have someone like a Ron Francis who's been there for as long as he has been, and I know they did the thing where they moved him upstairs and they brought in Botterill, that doesn't really do a whole heck of a lot. You need someone to come in there, fresh set of eyes on the team who has the security of, okay, I have a process and ownership's going to let me play out my process, and I don't need to make these rushed, scrambly moves that we've kind of seen this front office do over the last few years.
Yeah, and I think that's to the point where, Botterill comes in, a guy that I was able to play for. He was the one that signed me to this contract in Buffalo, so I'm not sure he's a very good GM either, giving me that money the way things turned out in Buffalo. But that being said, like he made the trade for Tage Thompson. Riley moved out, and he drafted Rasmus Dahlin, so he's been around. He's had that, I guess maybe demeanor. I think he was younger in his career in Buffalo where I think he micromanaged a lot, and I think he can grow out of that and like continue to grow. And I think being around Ron Francis and growing will be an important factor. But this is a team where, like you talked about it, their fan base, like they don't have a superstar, right? Like I'm breaking down the numbers here, and I've said this before on the show. Like Jordan Eberle right now is their leading scorer with 53 points. Like Jordan Eberle on a good hockey team is like, where's he playing on your third line? Like he's not really a guy that's going to generate a lot of offense. So now he's first on your team. Matty Beniers is who he is. I think obviously Bobby McMahon's been great coming over. He's 106th in the NHL in points, right? Like if you look at Connor McDavid right now, Connor McDavid just peaked he's got 133 points. So 80 more points than the leading scorer on the Seattle Kraken. And now you're talking about comparisons. I'm trying to compete with this. And there are numerous teams. Leon Draisaitl still tied for 6th with 97. So there alone, where is that extra points coming from? And again, you can win by committing. I think Lane Lambert has done a very good job of getting this team to play like a very structured team game. But at the end of the day, man, like how do you compete? And now you're talking about trying to win a best of 7 series. I think it's just very, very hard for this team to get anywhere without a superstar.
Yeah, and like we had the 5-on-5 numbers here that I think really illustrate the point. Like you're not competing in the Western Conference if Adam Larson is your 5th highest producing player at 5-on-5 on the year. It's just not happening. So they know what they got to do. Or at least you'd hope whoever takes over that spot knows what they have to do. And I guess the next question is like Francis out, whoever takes over as that new president, are they going to have the leeway and the ability to maybe move on from Botterill and kind of again hire their own team and build this up their own way? That's a question for our insider, David Pagnotta. But you talked about Connor McDavid in your last point there, Huts. It's a nice transition to the ice last night. It was a night filled with Connor McDavid magic. 5 points for the Oilers captain. It puts him squarely in the running to win the Art Ross trophy. Him and Kucherov were going toe-to-toe for basically the last 6 weeks. They'd been alternating who's been moving around in that top spot, but it's McDavid on the back of a couple of beauties last night as well. He was electric. I think he's got the Art Ross lined up. Now the question that's kind of popping up is Connor McDavid, especially if, they beat San Jose last night and the Sharks' playoff chances took a hit. If the Sharks miss and Celebrini is, in quotes, out of the MVP race, does McDavid still have a shot, or do you lean Kucherov or McKinnon?
No, I still think he has a shot too. Again, with 3 games to go to the chase to 50, I think comes into play. They have the Avs, they have the Canucks, which could be a big scoring night. And again, the Kings is their 3rd game. I think it can happen. But when I look at the ability to him to elevate his game last night, it felt like to me after everything that's gone on in the season, and maybe shame on us. I know you obviously deal with it a lot more in that market, but again, we always just highlight the problems of Edmonton early in the year. And again, now we're sitting here and they're first in the division. They're back where they need to do, trying to peak at the right time. It felt like last night was like a, hey, move over, kid. It's not your time yet. That's what it felt like to me, the way that he controlled that game with the talk of Celebrini from the Olympics and how it's like the next wave is coming with Celebrini, Bedard, all these young talents. Like McDavid's like, hey, we ain't done yet, kid. And I think last night was a great example of him just taking that game over, putting it on his back and being a difference maker. And they held the San Jose Sharks to 14 shots. Like they can defend. That was a desperate hockey team in San Jose, and they just made them look horrible last night. I think that was a big flex.
Yeah, and I want to finish on that point in a second here. But you talked about Celebrini and McDavid. There was a play, I forget if it was late second or early third period, but Celebrini like kind of smoked McDavid into the boards behind the net. And you could tell like McDavid kind of got knocked down. he got up and he didn't like throw a cross check or anything, but you could tell he went right back at Celebrini and kind of like grabbed onto him a little bit. So there was maybe a little bit of that rivalry. The two of them obviously had a connection at the Winter Games, but when the Hockey Canada jersey comes off and you're back to the NHL, I think there is a little bit of Connor McDavid that wants to be like you said, like, hey, still my league, buddy. I know you're getting a lot of the attention, but look what I can do, sort of thing. McDavid minus 1,000 on Bet365 to win the Art Ross. He's moved up to plus 300 to win the Hart Trophy. The odds in order go McKinnon, Kucherov, McDavid, and then Celebrini at 4. The only my case for McDavid, if I had to make one, and I'll be honest, if I had a vote, I don't know if it would go to 97 this year. I think it might go to Nikita Kucherov if the Sharks miss the playoffs. But since Leon Draisaitl got hurt, in the 11 games that he's been without his running mate in Leon, 10 goals, 9 assists. That's 19 points in 11 games. The Oilers only have 37 goals in that stretch. He's been factoring in on basically 50% of the offense. They're 7-3-1 since losing Leon, and they're in the driver's seat to win the division. That right there is McDavid's MVP case, right? Is that when the games got bigger at the end of the year and they lost Leon Draisaitl and all the attention goes to how can they survive without number 29, Connor McDavid reminded everybody that he's more than capable of carrying this team on his own.
Well, and I think to the case of like, okay, in a division now where it's starting to turn, right? LA's on the outside looking in. They're kind of, what is their future going to be like? I look to Connor McDavid to be like, okay, the Anaheim Ducks are starting to bud. The San Jose Sharks are there. He's kind of planting his flag that it's not over yet. And this is without Draisaitl. So I am totally on board with that. The factor is now, I worry about their goaltending. I worry about that. But like, this is something he's put on his shoulders and stated his case. There's only 3 games to go. I think Kucherov has a little bit of it. I think they have tougher matchups for them. But at the end of the day, like, this is without a supporting cast. It's really hard to deny those facts of how good they've been over these last, like, they've lost 2 before that, but then it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight wins when everything was muddy in the Pacific, right? Like, he addressed it as like, we're in this now. We need to own it. And I think he's put that on his back.
Yeah, Oilers, like I said, driver's seat in the Pacific. They're 2 up on Vegas, and Vegas has a game in hand, but Edmonton holds the tiebreaker over the Golden Knights, and a regulation win last night also helped in that regard. But quickly on San Jose, you mentioned that it was supposed to be this really desperate hockey team. They were anything but last night from a pure, objective hockey perspective. The fact they mustered up 4 points, they were down going into the third period, and Tristan Jarry comes into the game because Connor Ingram got hurt. And for the first 7 minutes of that period, San Jose just was perimeter. There was no urgency, no attack. Even it boils down, and I know this is like a Hail Mary, but we've seen this Sharks team do wild, wild stuff this year. They're down 3 goals, and they don't even try to pull the goalie at any point. And I'm sitting here going, like, I get, in January, if you want to, like, wave the white flag and be like, not our night, whatever. Try for the miracle, man. You're in a playoff hunt. Even just trying to scrape that game to overtime, like, again, cold goalie and Jarry, who gave up 6 the night before in Utah. There was just no sense of urgency from San Jose last night, and just it's so disappointing. And again, they were the team who wasn't playing on the second of back-to-backs. They actually got to play again tonight and travel down to Anaheim. And I'm sitting here going, based on what I saw last night, their season is borderline on the line tonight in Anaheim. I have very little faith that this Sharks team is going to find a way to dial it up against the Ducks just based on what I saw last night.
Yeah, I think too, like, from like right away, my mind goes to like being in the moment on a team where this situation goes on. You see their guy go, he leaves the game, the backup comes in. Everybody knows Jarry's been struggling. This is common affair. Like, this is something that's communicated on the bench immediately as a team. Like, okay, boys, this is our chance to push, make it harder on them. To not have that answer is a tricky one. There's 2 things that get communicated a ton on the bench in the NHL is when a backup goes in and he's the shits and he's struggling, it's like, hey, this is our chance to go at it. And then the other one is when a forward is back on defense. Like, is another one where it's like forward back, like move the puck to that side, try to expose that player when he's trying to play a one-on-one battle, or guys will try to expose that. So the lack of that just maybe starts to show maybe the burnout rate that the San Jose Sharks are at. Like, they've been playing a ton of meaningful hockey for a long time. We've seen Columbus go through a tough stretch. The Wings, like, at some point, it becomes unsustainable to play that style of hockey. And I think a great example would be that clip they had of Celebrini a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, where it's just chaos for 45 seconds. He's running around everywhere. It's great. It looks awesome. But sustainability comes into effect, and it's really hard to do that. You can't play playoff hockey year round. That's why it's called playoff hockey.
That's a good point. Speaking of playoff hockey, the Bruins seem to be well on their way to clinching a playoff spot. I don't think it could quite happen tonight, but they could get really, really close to it happening tonight. And some news yesterday that they've officially signed James Hagens, the 7th overall pick from the 2025 draft. They've signed him to his 3-year entry-level contract. A couple weeks ago, obviously, the news was that he had signed an ATO. They sent him down to Providence for a bit. He had a nice little run down in the AHL, had 4 points in 6 games in his first taste of professional hockey, and bring him up to the big club here. And again, you don't do this unless you have plans of giving this guy a legitimate look and hoping he can impact things in the playoff picture. I guess where I'm curious with Bruins and Hagens is kind of where does he slide? Do they have visions of him being a center? Are they going to try him on the wing? Like they're running Lindholm, Zaka, and Fraser Minton down the middle right now. Husnadanov has played some center this year. He's pushed to the wing. Like I'm curious where Hagen slots and what kind of a role they have for him, because the blueprint, at least from Philly, like they signed Porter Martone and they're playing him 16 plus minutes a night right out of the gate here, and it's paying off. He's been a part of some big goals for them. I'm curious what their plan is, the Bruins, that is, for a guy like Hagens. Is he going to have a big role right out of the gate? Are they going to try to ease him in? But either way, Boston adding potentially some scoring punch here ahead of the playoffs.
Which could help him too, right? And I also think that like the factor is if you're going to bring this guy up, you're going to burn the year, sign the contract, have him be an impact player. You want him to play because at the end of the day, like it's not like when we look back, like last year, I think of like Ryan Leonard coming up with the Washington Capitals, and he was like, hey, he's your trade deadline acquisition because you were trying to win a cup like with Washington. I don't think Boston's trying to win a cup this year. Like I think you're making the playoffs. It's kind of bonus money. You know, you can go in and try to make some noise, but realistically, I don't really think they consider them the threat with this lineup that they have. So why not gain him some experience and get him some like things that might help you in 2 and 3 and 4 years down the road. So I do think he will play a good standpoint because the last thing you want to do is bring him up, put him in a role where it's going to like stunt his growth as a player as he starts to develop into a full-time NHL guy.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. I was reading some of the coverage in Boston, and they were comparing this to kind of exactly how they handled Charlie McAvoy back in the day, which I found a little interesting. Let's keep moving along with the show and get to our insider segment with our guy Dave Pagnotta. It's a presentation of the Ninja Crispy Pro countertop glass air fryer. Shark Ninja is elevating the air fryer experience, and the Ninja Crispy Pro. It's got a lot going on. It's a family-sized cooking system that comes with a 6-quart container and 2.5-quart glassware containers, storage lids, crisper plates, and a modular base for any occasion. The clean, crisp glassware is designed for non-toxic cooking and storing. That doesn't take away from the power. It's an 1,800-watt air fryer that can cook a 7.5-pound chicken, feeding up to 10 people. It's got customizable 6-in-1 functions. And if you want to find out more, you can go to sharkninja.ca or visit the link in our description. Dave Pagnotta from the DFO Rundown Insider Edition and the fourth period joins us. More off-ice news in the NHL. The last couple weeks have been anything but a holiday for you insiders. The latest is that Ron Francis is going to be stepping down in Seattle. I guess sort of next steps here. The first question that pops in my mind, if Francis is out and a new president's coming in, could that mean some wholesale changes, like potentially Jason Botterill being out in Seattle?
To be honest, I'd be a little bit surprised if they end up going in that direction. There's no guarantee per se that they're going to bring in a president of hockey ops again. They may wait things out. For now, Jason Botterill, who's the EVP and the GM, heads the hockey department and the hockey operations side of things. So they may just kind of keep it to him to see how things go for the foreseeable future. It's not going to stop them potentially from exploring their options and seeing what might be available to them from that position. But for the time being, at least in their release and what they've relayed to everybody, is that they're going to let Botterill kind of handle things as executive vice president and GM and then go from there. I think this is going to be an interesting summer for the Seattle Kraken. I think they're going to have a bit of an active one, or at least try to anyway. They still have some key free agents, pending free agents that they're going to have to deal with before July, and they're going to want to shore things up. It's no secret that they have been trying to go big fish hunting for a long time. Going back to last season, but before last season, they were in on Kyrou, they were in on Panarin, they've been in on a lot of the big guys that have kind of been out there. and they're not afraid to kind of get engaged in those conversations. So I think more than anything, guys, like this is going to be a number of teams that we're going to look at this offseason and go, if they make a big splash, it's going to surprise probably 0 people.
Yeah, and so I won't speak ill of Jason Botterill because he did give me a 3-year contract in Buffalo that I'm forever grateful for. But I do like how you got the task today. You wore the Canadian flag on your hat, all 3 of us matching, looking very well. But what's not lining up right now is teams that are like updates on certain teams. Like for me, it's what's going on in Jersey, what's going on in Toronto. Every time I open my computer on some sort of website, it's about Toronto and the next run of who's going to be who. What's going on there? And then the other one for me is Nashville. Like these are all teams that potentially need GMs.
Yeah. Yeah. All of them. We may see another one in Vancouver, depending what happens there. Although there's some local speculation that Ryan Johnson's going to take over there at some point as GM. But with respect to the other 3 teams, look, we all know Nashville. They've been ahead of everybody because they've made this decision, or Trotz rather made the decision that he's going to want to hang up, his skates or tie or whatever, and move on off of the GM position once they find a new guy. When the new guy comes in and they're comfortable with him, then they're going to, presumably see him retire. And we've seen all the different reports, and they have interviewed people face to face. They have had conversations with everybody. They went through the first, kind of round of interviews, via Zoom or WhatsApp or whatever. To kind of go through, that first process. Let me just clear this. Mm-hmm. There we go. Yes. And now they're in the next round. Now they've kind of started to narrow down some of their candidates to see who fits the bill really for this club. And we know that they've had, interest in a number of guys. We know that they've been denied interest or requests to speak to guys like Johnson in Vancouver, like Eric Tulsky. And the thing about Tulsky, he's the GM in Carolina. I had heard that if there was an opportunity there, it would have been president and GM. So obviously that's not working out because he's staying in Carolina for now. But they've explored a variety of different options right now. Brett Peterson, the AGM in Florida, has generated a lot of interest. And, I think from Nashville. And I think we're going to see Toronto and Jersey kind of in that mix as well. Sonny Mehta is the other guy, the other AGM who's head of analytics, who I think it was Pierre LeBrun that reported today that they've given permission, Florida has, to both Toronto and New Jersey to speak to him about their vacancy. And both of those teams are looking at both president and hockey and GM, president of hockey ops and GM as well. Toronto is just starting now, just this week, has started to reach out to clubs to get this permission. Like they kind of put together their list last week of potential candidates that they want to pursue. And this week they've started reaching out to those that need permission. Last week they already reached out to a few people that didn't need it, but this week has been, all right, let's see who's available. And let's start the process here and then start those types of interviews before we start narrowing down, candidates. And I think, it wouldn't surprise me if they make a call over to Jersey to see if they can talk to Fitzy for one of the roles. Chuck Fletcher's name is starting to be bandied about a little bit as well. And we have already, been aware of some of the other suspects like Mike Gillis and others. Jamie Langenbrunner's name has been popping up as well. So both of these teams, New Jersey and Toronto, are going through the similar steps that Nashville has gone through. Because they started a lot sooner. They're further along. And it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the month, Nashville kind of figures out who their guy is. Toronto's kind of set the timeline between mid-May to the beginning of June. I would imagine New Jersey's kind of in that same boat. But both of these teams are really starting to get through that process, and New Jersey as well, starting pretty immediately. They didn't wait the week like Toronto did to start reaching out to talk to potential candidates that need permission to have to talk.
I want to circle back quickly to that Vancouver comment you made. If changes are to happen in Vancouver, is any of it dependent on the way the lottery balls fall for them? And if Ryan Johnson were to take over, is it GM? Are we talking about Jim Rutherford's job being in jeopardy? What's the read on Vancouver there?
No, I think Rutherford, and Irf and I talked about this last week on the Insider Edition. I think Rutherford sticks around for at least one more season. I know he's under contract next year. I still don't know if it's his final year or if there's another one. Either way, all indications are that Jim Rutherford is going to be sticking around next season as well for at least one more. Now, the chatter has been that Alvin might be on the outs, or at least outs from the GM post, position. There's talk in Vancouver that maybe he gets reassigned or gets a different position just under Rutherford, and a new GM comes in, which would potentially be Ryan Johnson. Now, there were reports this week that I think Nashville sought permission to talk to him and were denied. So typically, when that happens, the team has a good indication that, okay, we're gonna elevate your role, or we have higher hopes or higher view of where we feel you stand within this organization. I think Rich Peverley was starting to at least generate some outside interest in Dallas. They elevated him to AGM, and there's a lot of potential there for him to take on a bigger role with the Dallas Stars. Some of their guys and AGMs already have generated interest as well. I think Scott White's one of the. It wouldn't surprise me if Jersey or Toronto kind of poke around there too. Ryan Martin's another name that's been popping around too. But Vancouver, I think, by all accounts, at least now, and obviously things change, but as of today, from what I've been hearing, and again, Irf and I talked about this, it sounds like Rutherford sticks around. Alvin's kind of the bubble, but Johnson's sticking around in some capacity. And again, local reports suggesting he's going to be the GM at some point. As for the coach there, I still believe he sticks around. He's got 2 more years left on the whole coaching staff has 2 more years left on their contracts after this season. I'd be surprised if they made a move at the head coaching position, even with Manny Malhotra's name, their head coach in the A, out there as well.
And for Vancouver fans, I can say Ryan Johnson, I know personally well, Thunder Bay boy, like played the game the right way. Like he blocked shots. He used to have a block. Like he's going to build a team that you want to see in a Canadian market, I think, which is reassuring. And all these firings and hirings and all these dominoes starting to drop, like teams looking ahead to the summer and what do they need. The one team I wanted to check in on with you was Chicago. Like what is their plan? Because it felt like they were starting to speed up the process, and then they kind of fell apart in the second half. Like, where do you think they go this summer?
Yeah, I think they recognize that they're not there yet to take those next steps this season. I think they're going to start taking those this summer going into next. They've got about $40 million in cap space, little over. Yeah, a big chunk of that's got to go to Connor Bedard, who's an RFA, and they're going to enhance those conversations once the season ends, depending on where he ends up. I mean, he could be anywhere from 12 to 15 million per season, depending on term. So take that into account. But he's the only key free agent, RFA anyway, that they have. Korchinski needs a new deal and whatnot. But now you've got him. You've got Frundell, who's 5 points in 6 games since he's entered the mix. They've got a strong 1-2 punch now that they can roll with. You have Nazar as well, who's been alternating between wing and center. But they want to start insulating. They want to start bringing in guys that can really start to play on the flanks, on the wings, and be complementary pieces that work well with either Frundell and or Bedard. Ilya Mikheyev, they like a lot. They've gone back and forth from what I was told on a contract. They'll continue those conversations as well. But I think Lafferty's also a UFA, and they got Grzelcyk on the back end. Weber's money comes off the books. Forgot Shea Weber's still under contract in the NHL. He's with Chicago. That goes off the books July 1. But guys, I really I mentioned Seattle earlier being a team that's going to go big fish hunting. There are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be doing this because the free agent pool is shallow. There are a lot of good complementary mid-tier players kind of available now, second, third line guys that are, for championship caliber teams, you're going to be wanting to add some of those pieces. But in terms of higher end, top 6 impact, top 4D kind of thing, you're going to be looking at the trade market. And I think Chicago this is going to be the summer where they're going to be a little bit more aggressive in their pursuit to add to this team and give guys like Bedard and Frundell some proper ammunition, not just stopgaps like we've seen in the last couple of years, at least with Connor.
What's fascinating about that too, like you mentioned, Seattle, Chicago, I think San Jose might even be in a similar ballpark with how good this year went. Mike Greer might be like, oh shit, maybe I do need to make a big ad. Like if you're all these teams,
defense,
the free agent market sucks. Yeah, they need a blue liner. They need their version of the Noah Dobson trade from last summer. But like whoever there's so many teams that want to make big ads. If you were a team who balked at the asking price for Robert Thomas at the deadline, like I see no reason why that price is going to go down with all of these teams looking to add top of the lineup guys and like how few of them are going to be truly available on the trade market.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been beating this drum for the last year and a half because Jordan Kyrou's name has been out there a lot. But I think that conversation is going to pick up this offseason as well, regardless of how the Blues season finishes. That's likely to be somebody that they have those conversations with, and I understand why Thomas's name was so prominent. Because look, if somebody's willing to go down the road of paying a premium, why the hell wouldn't you explore that? If you're Seattle as you're going, or excuse me, St. Louis as you're going through that transition, they're going to have conversations in the summer with teams about Jordan Binnington. I would anticipate, Carolina being one of the teams in that mix, depending on how things go for them, but probably a few other teams that are going to have those conversations. Do the Oilers go in that direction with him entering a contract year, final year of his deal, or are there other teams that go there? So St. Louis is going to be pretty active as well as they transition over to Alex Steen as GM. You can't count out the Islanders or the Canadiens. They're looking to be aggressive pretty much every summer, or at least the Canadiens anticipate as well in or on Long Island. But other teams too, like what the hell is Toronto going to do? Like a lot of these teams that plan on, like Toronto, wanting to retool, New Jersey as well, whoever comes in, like these teams are going to be aggressive because the mandate from some of these clubs is going to be, better bet your ass you're getting to the playoffs, or we're going to have a whole other conversation. And by the way, Detroit, same situation. It's or get off the pot time for the Wings in terms of solidifying their playoff stance. And I think they're a little bit behind the 8 ball in that. I think they want it to be like where Ottawa was, almost like where the Canadiens were, maybe not that far ahead, but you can pinpoint some of the deficiencies in Detroit's roster. And even with injuries playing a factor, if you can fill some of those other voids, you should be able to maintain that pace for those guys that get hurt to come back in the second half of the season. They weren't able to do that in the last little bit. So, look, we're 9 days away from the start of the playoffs. So the regular season ends a week today. Yeah, we're going to start to hear more of this kind of stuff from some of the direction that some of these clubs are going to be going in.
Dave, as always, appreciate the insight. Appreciate you following dress code today as well with the hat, and we'll chat again next week.
You got it, boys. We'll see you.
Yeah, big win for the Jays yesterday, and I cannot believe I'm saying big win when it comes to baseball in early April, but never mind on that. Daily Faceoff inbox question, hashtag AskDFO. J-Rock, I'm a Blues fan, obviously. With all the changes in front offices, people want new blood. A lot of people didn't understand or question the GM succession in St. Louis. Should more teams try that, where it was kind of like publicly announced that, hey, Alex Steen's going to learn under Armstrong for a few years and then slowly take over? And honestly, I think it's a great idea. We saw it like loosely in Toronto, although Lou Lamoriello didn't exactly give up the seat willingly. But I'm curious, even like, Pagnotta was talking about Rutherford in Vancouver. I'm curious if you bring in a younger GM like Ryan Johnson and say, hey, for the next 2 years, you're going to learn under Jim Rutherford. We'll give you the GM title, all that. Maybe it's not quite the full job. And 2 years from now, you're going to be the president, you're going to be the GM, and it's your team. But I kind of like that idea of having a bit of a succession plan because, again, it buys the front office time to properly execute whatever the plan or build should look like.
Well, I guess my the devil's advocate to that would be if you like the GM you have, right? Like Doug Armstrong's done a lot. So then the other side of it is like, okay, so if he's going to mentor Alex Steen, it has to be a good relationship. And obviously Alex Steen has to be able to have his own identity and topics and things he wants to work on. But if the relationship's frayed between Rutherford and Johnson and you don't really love the way things have run, like what if he's rubbing off on the things that you don't enjoy too about what he does as a GM and those little things? So I think it is a happy medium, but I also think that like you need to maintain your own identity. You can learn from other people and there's wisdom to work around the business, but within that, you need to be able to like see it your way in a sense. If you're really going to make any changes, if not, you're just beating your head against the wall doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah, I think that is a good counterpoint too. The last thing you want is like any sort of like the butting of heads conflict there, and then things go sideways, a fractured plan, if you will. Let's get to our bets for Bet365. Tired of waiting around for the game to end, ready to move on to the next puck drop. That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has the 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding with goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing to wait around for. Bet365, download the app and see what early payouts are all about. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. I wasn't even close yesterday. Got smoked. Pat Puff, another dub.
Yeah, I was feeling good when Connor and Celebrini scored like basically right off the rip. So 4 shots was a stretch for Celebrini, but he got there. Betting on the pros, they did it for me. Huts, you were betting on San Jose over Edmonton. That was your issue there.
Well, I was just doing it to go against you guys, trying to give you some bet. Like, I knew that if I bet San Jose, Edmonton would win. So I was just trying to actually, in theory, propel my coworkers and good friends that I've built a great relationship with them to the Pacific Division lead. So you're welcome, boys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, lottery time for me as I get to my pick. I'm going with another 5-4-3 shot prop parlay. Jack Hughes as the Devils take on the Penguins, even though New Jersey doesn't have anything to play for. Hughes has hit this mark of 5 shots in 4 straight hockey games. Frank Nazar out in Chicago got him at 4 shots. He's hit this one in 3 of his last 5, including 6 in the team's last game. And Logan Cooley in Utah has hit this mark in 4 of 5. So all these guys have a, once again, track record of hitting. Plus 4,900 would bring me back to even. Giddy up.
I'm hoping I can win again today just for karma of not getting the hat memo, but I've got Matthew Schaefer a 1+ point against Toronto. I just feel like a team that's out of it, they're not going to be kind of paying attention to him quite as much. So he's got 3 points in his last 5 as well. Winnipeg money line over St. Louis. I just feel like the odds were even for both teams, and Winnipeg, in my opinion, just a better team, a better goaltender. So I'm thinking Winnipeg wins there. And Colorado -1.5 versus Calgary. Not much to say there. Calgary out of it, and Colorado obviously one of the best teams in the league right now in all seasons. So plus 425 for those 3. You, Huts?
I'm going to go with the Montreal Canadiens money line. They play Tampa Bay at home tonight. I think things are trending well. Jakub Dobeš gets a start, 6 straight wins. I'm taking the Montreal Canadiens money lines, and I'm taking that little nifty 13 to get his 50th tonight with an anytime goal. So that's a huge divisional game for these teams as they're all bogged up, 2 points behind Buffalo. You can win first in that division, avoiding Buffalo-Tampa Bay matchup to start for the Habs. This could be a biggest game of their year.
Yeah, big ones tonight in the NHL. 14 games on tap, crazy enough. Columbus in Buffalo. They're all must-wins right now for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Ottawa hosting Florida, looking to keep their hold on the playoffs. Philly taking on Detroit. I think Detroit's cooked, but Philly's trying to stay alive there. And then out west, San Jose, Anaheim. Big one for the San Jose Sharks. That might be their season on the line. LA is hosting Vancouver. Need a win there if you're Vancouver, or if you're the LA Kings. And the Golden Knights are in Seattle to play the Kraken. So plenty of big hockey games on tap tonight. Wrapping up the show with a little bit of garbage time. Let's wrap it up with a look back at last night. A feel-good moment in a year that hasn't had a lot of feel-good moments for the Washington Capitals. But how about Alexei and Ilya Protas? Ilya making his NHL debut, picks up a point, gets some hugs from his brother on the bench. I just like seeing stuff like this. 2 brothers hugging it out, playing for the same NHL team. I mean, that's just good stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome too. I think even my emotional side, I see stuff like this. You think about how much work and time and just, everything you've put into the game and being with each other. So to be able to do that together is unbelievable. And something we pulled up here today that I was very surprised by. I would have never guessed this. And the amount of brothers that have played in the NHL just as of this year, adding Protas to those would be 23 sets of brothers this year alone, which is wild to me, the amount of brothers. And 2 3-packs with Quinn, Jack, Luke Hughes, Lane, Quinn, and Cole Hudson. And a lot of big names on the list. So pretty impressive to see how many brothers have lasted in the NHL. And we talked about one earlier, Ryan Johnson, Thunder Bay boy, Greg Johnson played captain of the Preds. So there's been a big tie of them from here. We had the Stahl brothers, Pyatt brothers. So there's something in the water when it comes to, these families that produce multiple NHLers.
Shit, you're like a hockey encyclopedia today, rattling off all those names. Huh?
Boom. Stats. I can do it all. Yeah, sometimes it can't just be shooting from the hip. Sometimes I do a little research.
Did you make a Masters pick for me?
Yes, I have a Masters pick. I put in 2 teams. I do a golf pool, guys, and Pat and Ty in it. We will check in on Monday who won. But I took one team with Scotty, one team with Rory. I'm going with Scotty. Kind of not that. I like Aberg. I like Aberg too. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ludwig Aberg. He's real good. I can't wait for this.
He's good. I'm on Shoffley and the Canadian Corey Connors. I think I said that yesterday, though. Anyways, that's a wrap. I'm going to get to watching some golf, and I'm also going to get to Oilers Nation every day in about an hour and a bit. Everybody enjoy your Thursday. We're back here tomorrow, noon Eastern.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.